Learn how to care for your spider plant easily, plus tips for fixing brown leaf tips at the end of the video. One small mistake could be stressing your plant right now, so stick around and this might take you to sleep, so get a pillow. Spider plants are tough, but they're surprisingly picky about light. For lush, vibrant leaves and plenty of baby plants, you'll want to give them bright, indirect sunlight. That means placing them near a window that gets good light without direct sun hitting the leaves. Harsh rays, especially from a south-facing window, can quickly scorch them, turning those beautiful green blades into crispy, faded curls. However, placing your spider plant in a dark corner isn't the answer either. Yes, they'll survive for a while in low light, but they'll look dull, grow slower, and likely stop producing spiderettes. Ideally, use an east-facing window in the morning, or keep them a few feet from a sunny window filtered through sheer curtains. The goal is gentle, consistent brightness. Here's a quick test. If you can read a book comfortably in the spot without turning on a light during the day, it's likely bright enough. If your plant's leaves start stretching or leaning dramatically, that's a clear sign it's craving more light. Now, during winter or in darker rooms, you can use a simple grow light. Even a basic LED bulb with a daylight spectrum can help your plant stay healthy all year round. Rotate the pot every week or so to ensure even light exposure, otherwise it may grow lopsided. And if you notice pale stripes, faded color, or brown edges despite watering correctly, your light setup might be the root of the problem. Move it, test again, and watch how fast it bounces back. Proper lighting isn't just the first step, it's the foundation for everything else. Get this right, and your spider plant will thank you with fuller foliage and maybe even a string of adorable baby spiderettes hanging down like tiny green fireworks. Watering a spider plant sounds simple, but it's one of the most common ways people accidentally harm it. And yes, even plant lovers get this wrong. The trick is to water thoroughly but not too often, because spider plants absolutely hate sitting in soggy soil. Here's the golden rule. Let the top inch of soil dry out before watering again. If you poke your finger into the soil and it feels moist, wait another day or two. Watering on a schedule like every 3 days without checking the soil is a fast track to root rot. When it's time to water, do it slowly and deeply. Let the water run through the drainage holes so the roots can drink fully. Then always empty the saucer afterward. Leaving your plant sitting in water is a surefire way to stress the roots. Overwatered spider plants often show yellowing leaves, mushy roots, or browning tips that just won't go away, even if your lighting and soil are perfect. On the other hand, if you're underwatering, the leaves might go limp, curl up, or dry out at the ends. And here's a pro tip. Spider plants store moisture in their thick tuber-like roots, so they can actually bounce back from a little neglect. That means it's better to slightly underwater than to keep the soil constantly wet. Still, don't push it too far. They won't thrive in dry, dusty soil either. During warmer months, your spider plant might need water once or twice a week, especially if it's actively growing or living in bright light. But in winter, cut back drastically. Once every 10 to 14 days is often enough when the plant is resting and the room is cooler. Use room temperature water if you can. Cold water can shock the roots, especially during colder months. And if your tap water is hard or chemically treated, try filtered or rainwater instead. This helps prevent those frustrating brown tips. Finally, watch your plant. It will tell you what it needs. Healthy, perky leaves? You're doing great. Droopy, pale, or crispy ones? It might be time to adjust your watering routine. Water is life. But with spider plants, the timing matters just as much as the amount. Your spider plant may look low maintenance, but it absolutely notices what kind of soil it's living in. The wrong potting mix can lead to soggy roots, stunted growth, or even fungus gnats. So, if your plant looks unhappy, no matter how well you water it, the problem might be right under the surface. Spider plants thrive in light, well-draining soil, not heavy, compacted, or moisture-retaining mixes. You want something that allows air to flow around the roots while still holding just enough moisture to keep the plant hydrated between waterings. A basic potting mix works fine, but it becomes perfect when you tweak it. Try blending. 2 parts all-purpose potting soil, 1 part perlite or pumice for drainage, and 1 part coconut coir or peat moss for light moisture retention. This combo gives your plant that fluffy, breathable texture it loves. Perlite helps keep the soil loose and aerated, while coir or peat adds structure and just the right amount of moisture-holding capacity. You can also mix in a bit of orchid bark or sand if your plant is in a humid environment to increase airflow. Avoid garden soil or anything labeled moisture control. These mixes often retain too much water, causing your spider plant's roots to suffocate. And when roots can't breathe, they rot. That's when you start seeing droopy stems, yellowing leaves, or black, mushy spots near the base of the plant. Make sure your pot has drainage holes. This is non-negotiable. No matter how perfect the soil is, if water can't escape, it will collect at the bottom and slowly drown your plant. Terracotta pots are a great choice because they absorb moisture and allow excess water to evaporate naturally. Repot your spider plant every 1 to 2 years, ideally in spring when it's gearing up for new growth. You'll often notice thick roots crowding the pot or pushing up the soil. These are signs it's time for an upgrade. Go just 1 pot size larger and refresh the soil completely. And here's a helpful visual. Healthy spider plant roots should be thick, white, and firm. If you see brown, slimy, or smelly roots when repotting, it's time to trim them and switch to a fresh, airy mix. Ultimately, your spider plant doesn't just sit in soil, it lives in it. So give it a home that helps it breathe, grow, and send out those baby spiderettes with confidence. Spider plants may be tough, but they do have comfort zones. And if you push them outside those limits, they'll absolutely show it. So if you're wondering why your plant's not thriving, or why those leaf tips keep turning brown, temperature and humidity could be the hidden culprits. First things first, spider plants prefer temperatures between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius. That's pretty close to the average indoor range, so you won't usually need to do anything special. However, they really don't like sudden drops in temperature. Anything below 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius can stress them out or even cause damage. If your spider plant lives near a drafty window, an air conditioner, or a door that opens to the cold, you may notice drooping leaves, slowed growth, or worse, discoloration and leaf drop. The fix? Move the plant somewhere more stable, ideally away from vents or exterior doors. Now let's talk humidity. These plants are native to tropical and subtropical zones, so they enjoy moderate humidity, but they're also adaptable. Most homes with 40% to 60% humidity will work just fine. However, if you notice dry, crispy tips or edges on otherwise healthy leaves, especially in winter, low humidity might be to blame. During colder months, indoor air tends to get dry, especially when heaters are running. If you're seeing those brown tips creep in even though your watering is spot on, try boosting humidity with one of these quick tricks. Group your plants together. They naturally increase moisture in the air around each other. Use a pebble tray. Place a shallow tray of water and pebbles under the plant's pot. Make sure the pot isn't sitting in the water. Mist lightly. A few times a week is fine, but avoid soaking the leaves. Overdoing it can invite fungal problems. Run a humidifier. This is especially useful if you have several houseplants or your home is very dry. Spider plants also appreciate good air circulation. Stagnant, stuffy air can lead to mildew or fungus problems, especially if the humidity is high. So don't tuck them in a dark corner without airflow. Let them breathe a little. And don't forget, temperature and humidity swings, like moving your plant from a warm living room to a cold porch overnight, can cause stress that shows up days later. Whenever you make a move or a change, watch your plant closely for the next week. Your spider plant might look fine without extra feeding, but if you want vibrant leaves, steady growth, and loads of spiderettes, Fertilizer is the quiet hero behind the scenes. But like most things with plants, too much can do more harm than good, so timing, type, and quantity really matter. Let's start simple. Spider plants benefit from monthly feeding during the growing season, which is spring through early fall. That's when they're actively pushing out new leaves and baby plantlets. During these months, a gentle boost of nutrients will support strong roots, lush foliage, and overall plant health. Use a balanced liquid houseplant fertilizer, something like 10, 10, 10, or 20, 20, 20. But, and this is important, always dilute it to half strength. Spider plants are sensitive to over-fertilizing, and full-strength doses can cause leaf burn, especially at the tips. You know those dry brown ends that just won't go away? Overfeeding is a common cause. During the cooler months, late fall through winter, when your spider plant's growth slows down, it's best to pause fertilizing completely. Feeding a resting plant forces it to absorb nutrients it doesn't need, which can damage the roots and leaves. If you're using slow-release pellets or organic options like worm castings, go lighter. These types break down over time and continue feeding for weeks, even months. A little goes a long way, and it's easy to accidentally double up if you mix them with liquid feed. Watch for signs your spider plant actually needs a nutrient boost. Pale leaves, slower growth, or smaller baby plants may all indicate a need for fertilizer. But be careful. Those symptoms can also come from poor light or underwatering, so make sure those boxes are checked first. Another important point: always fertilize on damp soil. Feeding a thirsty plant is like giving coffee on an empty stomach. It shocks the system. Water your spider plant a day before feeding or just after a light watering to help the roots absorb nutrients smoothly. And don't forget about salt buildup. Over time, excess minerals from fertilizer and hard tap water can accumulate in the soil. This shows up as white crust on the surface or brown leaf edges. To fix this, flush the soil every couple of months. Pour water through the pot and let it drain fully to rinse out the gunk. So in short, feed lightly, consistently, and seasonally. Your spider plant doesn't need much, but the right nutrients at the right time can take it from nice to absolutely thriving. Maintaining the graceful beauty of your spider plant requires a bit of regular grooming, although the process is neither difficult nor time-consuming. In fact, with just a few careful snips and some gentle attention, you can keep your plant looking lush, neat, and wonderfully vibrant all year long. While spider plants are naturally tidy, their long, arching leaves and rapidly growing offshoots can occasionally become unruly. That's why pruning is not only beneficial, it's absolutely essential for keeping your spider plant in excellent condition. First and foremost, always begin by inspecting the plant thoroughly. Look closely for any leaves that appear brown, crispy, or severely discolored. These damaged leaves do not contribute to the plant's health or appearance, and more often than not, they drain valuable energy from the healthy parts of the plant. Therefore, it's wise to remove them as soon as possible. Using sharp, clean scissors or pruning shears, carefully snip the leaf as close to the base as you can. If the tips are only slightly brown but the rest of the leaf is still green and strong, you can simply trim the brown part off. Do this sparingly and always cut at an angle to preserve the plant's natural flow. In addition to trimming damaged leaves, you should also keep an eye on any long stems that are growing spiderets, those adorable baby plants that dangle gracefully from the mother plant. While these offshoots are charming and a clear sign of a healthy plant, they can sometimes crowd the pot and steal nutrients from the central root system. If your goal is to encourage stronger root growth, or if the plant is starting to look overly cluttered, it's a good idea to prune some of these runners. Cut them off cleanly where the stem meets the base. You can either compost them or use them for propagation, which is both fun and rewarding. Moreover, grooming isn't just about cutting away the bad. It's also about gently cleaning and straightening. Once a month or even more frequently, if your plant is in a dusty area, gently wipe the leaves with a soft, damp cloth. This not only helps the plant look fresh and glossy, but also improves photosynthesis by clearing away any dust that might block light. Additionally, take a few moments to remove any fallen leaves or debris from the soil surface, as this can attract pests or mold. It's also important to note that spider plants, especially older ones, can grow quite dense over time. As a result, their inner leaves may become tightly packed, limiting airflow and increasing the risk of rot. By occasionally thinning out the central cluster and removing a few older leaves, you allow more air and light to reach the inner parts of the plant. This small yet significant step can prevent a host of future problems. Above all, always prune with care and consistency. Do not cut too much at once, and never remove more than 1/3 of the plant's foliage in a single session. By being gentle yet deliberate, you'll help your spider plant remain a striking, healthy feature in your home or garden. Regular grooming is not just about aesthetics, it directly supports the plant's health, energy, and longevity. And while it may take just a few minutes every few weeks, the long-term rewards are absolutely worth the effort. Spider plants are naturally vigorous growers, and over time they can quickly outgrow their pots, sometimes even sooner than you might expect. Their thick tuberous roots expand rapidly and eventually press firmly against the walls of the container, leaving little room for healthy development. When this happens, the plant may become root-bound, causing slowed growth, yellowing leaves, and overall fatigue. That's precisely when repotting becomes necessary, not just helpful, but absolutely crucial for rejuvenating the plant's vitality. Now, how do you know when it's time to repot? Thankfully, spider plants offer very clear signals. If you notice roots poking boldly out of the drainage holes or creeping over the edge of the pot, or if watering becomes strangely ineffective, either drying out too quickly or pooling at the top, it's very likely your plant is overdue for a new home. Additionally, when the central clump becomes overly dense and compact with new shoots struggling to emerge, it's an unmistakable sign that the roots need more breathing room. When repotting timing matters. The best time to tackle this task is during the plant's active growing season, typically in spring or early summer. Repotting during this window gives the spider plant ample time to adjust, stretch, and thrive in its fresh surroundings. Begin by gently removing the plant from its current pot, tapping the sides and loosening the soil if necessary. Be cautious yet firm as you tease the roots apart. Although they are hardy, they can become tightly bound and entangled. Next, select a new container that is just slightly larger, ideally 1 to 2 inches wider in diameter than the previous pot. Choosing an overly large pot can lead to excess moisture retention, which increases the risk of root rot. Make sure the pot has proper drainage holes and pair it with a fresh, well-draining potting mix. A high-quality indoor plant mix, preferably one that includes perlite or coarse sand, will encourage both airflow and water movement through the roots. After placing the plant in its new pot, fill in the gaps around the roots with new soil, pressing it down gently but firmly. Water thoroughly to help settle the soil and remove air pockets. You may notice some mild stress immediately after repotting, such as drooping or slight discoloration. But don't panic. This is normal and typically temporary. Given a bit of time and consistent care, the spider plant will bounce back beautifully, often showing renewed growth within just a few weeks. While repotting is primarily about giving your plant room to grow, it's also a fantastic opportunity to divide and propagate if you wish. Larger spider plants can often be split at the root into 2 or more smaller sections, each of which can become a new plant. Simply separate the root ball where it naturally divides, ensuring that each section has a healthy portion of roots and foliage. These divisions can be potted up immediately and will establish themselves surprisingly fast. Finally, remember that spider plants are impressively adaptable, yet they appreciate stability after being moved. Place your freshly repotted plant in a bright, warm spot out of direct sunlight for the first few days. Avoid fertilizing right away. Wait at least a month since the new soil usually contains nutrients. And of course, water moderately and consistently, allowing the roots to settle in comfortably. Propagating a spider plant is not only incredibly easy, it's also immensely satisfying, especially when you see a tiny baby spiderette transform into a thriving, independent plant. This process is one of the reasons spider plants are so beloved among beginners and experienced gardeners alike. They practically beg to multiply, sending out long, arching stems adorned with miniature versions of themselves. These spiderettes or plantlets dangle gracefully like living ornaments, making the plant both beautiful and generously giving. Now, if you're wondering when to propagate, the answer is delightfully simple. Anytime those spiderettes have grown a few inches long and have developed tiny nubs or roots at their base. These visible signs mean the plantlet is mature enough to survive on its own. However, for best results, consider doing this in spring or early summer when the parent plant is in full growth mode and the baby plants are most likely to root quickly. There are 2 equally effective methods for spider plant propagation: water propagation and soil propagation. Let's start with the water method, which is wonderfully visual and perfect for plant lovers who enjoy watching roots grow day by day. First, gently snip the spiderette from the parent stem using clean, sharp scissors. Then place the base of the plantlet in a small glass of room temperature water, ensuring that only the root area is submerged. Avoid soaking the leaves as this can cause rot. Position the glass in a bright indirect light spot and change the water every few days. Within 1 to 2 weeks, you'll notice fresh white roots unfurling with energy and enthusiasm. Once the roots are about 1 to 2 inches long, the plantlet is ready to be transferred into soil. Alternatively, if you'd prefer to skip the water step entirely, you can plant the spiderette directly into moist, well-draining soil. This soil propagation method is slightly faster in terms of overall growth, though it requires a bit more care in the beginning. When planting, make a shallow hole, gently place the baby spider plant into it, and firm the soil around the base. Water thoroughly and keep the soil consistently moist, though never soggy, during the first few weeks. Additionally, place the pot in a warm, softly lit spot where the young roots can establish without stress. You can even keep the baby attached to the mother plant while it roots in soil, allowing it to draw strength from the parent as it settles. No matter which method you choose, patience and consistency are key. Always use fresh, clean tools and never force a spiderette to root before it's fully formed. While it might be tempting to snip every baby you see, focus on the ones that appear healthiest, those with vibrant green leaves and visible root nubs. Moreover, propagation offers more than just new plants. It's a way to share joy. These rooted spiderettes make charming, eco-friendly gifts for friends, family, or coworkers. They're compact, resilient, and easy to maintain, making them ideal for spreading your love of plants. Some people even create entire displays of spider babies in matching pots for a cohesive, eye-catching effect. Above all, propagation allows you to deepen your relationship with the plant itself. By engaging in this natural nurturing act, you witness firsthand the life cycle of a living organism. From one thriving plant, many can grow, and that truly is the magic of spider plants. Although spider plants are famously hardy and surprisingly forgiving, they are not entirely immune to pests or problems. Occasionally, these otherwise carefree plants encounter annoying intruders or environmental stress that can affect their health and appearance. Thankfully, with a bit of vigilance and quick action, most issues can be treated easily and prevented in the future. Let's begin with the most common culprits: spider mites, mealybugs, aphids, and scale insects. Spider mites, despite their tiny size, can cause significant trouble. These nearly invisible pests tend to congregate on the undersides of leaves, sucking sap and leaving behind fine webbing. You might notice tiny specks-faded leaves or an overall dusty appearance. Mealybugs, on the other hand, look like little white cotton tufts. They settle in leaf joints and stems, feeding greedily and leaving behind a sticky residue known as honeydew. Aphids and scale insects can also appear suddenly. Aphids tend to cluster on new growth while scale insects cling to stems like miniature brown shields. If you spot any of these pests, act promptly. First, isolate the affected plant to prevent the infestation from spreading. Then wash the leaves thoroughly with lukewarm water using a soft cloth or a gentle spray to remove bugs physically. For persistent pests, a homemade solution of water mixed with a few drops of dish soap and neem oil can work wonders. Apply it carefully using a spray bottle, focusing on affected areas and repeating every few days until the pests are gone. Additionally, always check the undersides of leaves regularly. Even healthy-looking spider plants can harbor hidden guests. Apart from pests, spider plants sometimes struggle with browning leaf tips, a frustrating but very common issue. These crispy, discolored edges are often caused by fluoride or chlorine in tap water or by a buildup of salts from fertilizers. Although the plant remains healthy overall, the brown tips can be unsightly. To prevent this, use filtered or distilled water whenever possible. Letting tap water sit out overnight before using it also allows chemicals to evaporate. Furthermore, flush the soil occasionally with clean water to rinse out excess salts. Overwatering is another problem that quietly damages spider plants. Although they enjoy slightly moist soil, they absolutely despise soggy conditions. When their roots sit in water too long, they begin to rot, leading to soft stems, limp leaves, and sometimes a foul smell. To prevent this, always use a well-draining potting mix and make sure the pot has drainage holes. Let the top inch of soil dry out before watering again. If you've accidentally overwatered, consider removing the plant from its pot, trimming off rotted roots, and repotting it in fresh soil. Conversely, underwatering can also cause stress, especially during hot or dry weather. Leaves may appear limp, pale, or curled. The soil may even pull away from the edges of the pot. While spider plants are fairly drought-tolerant, they thrive best when watered consistently. If you've neglected it for too long, rehydrate slowly. Don't drench the soil all at once, as this can shock the roots. Another occasional problem is leaf discoloration. If your spider plant's leaves are turning pale or yellow, it could be due to too much direct sunlight or a lack of nutrients. Spider plants prefer bright, indirect light. Too much sun can bleach the leaves, while too little can cause fading. Additionally, if it's been several months since the last feeding, consider giving your plant a balanced liquid fertilizer every few weeks during the growing season. Lastly, root-bound conditions can cause slowed growth and distress. As mentioned earlier, spider plants grow rapidly, and their thick roots often outgrow pots sooner than expected. When this happens, water runs through too quickly, and the plant struggles to absorb nutrients. Repotting every 1 to 2 years, or whenever you see roots circling the surface or poking through the drainage holes, helps prevent this issue entirely. Caring for your spider plant isn't just about watering and sunlight. It's about adapting your care as the seasons shift. While these graceful arching plants are naturally adaptable, they absolutely thrive when given the right support at the right time of year. Every season brings its own challenges and opportunities, so learning how to respond proactively can make a striking difference in the health and appearance of your plant. Spring is the season of renewal, and your spider plant feels it too. As daylight hours lengthen and temperatures rise, the plant emerges from its winter rest and begins to grow vigorously. This is the ideal time to repot if needed, especially if roots are overcrowded or pushing out of the drainage holes. Additionally, start feeding the plant again with a balanced diluted liquid fertilizer about once a month. This jumpstarts healthy growth and encourages the development of spiderets. Also, consider pruning away old, tired leaves and brown tips to give your plant a fresh, clean look. Place it in a location with bright, indirect light and be ready to increase watering slightly as growth accelerates. As the warm breezes of summer arrive, spider plants reach their peak activity. They grow faster, produce more offshoots, and often develop stronger roots. However, summer can also be intense, particularly if your plant is near a window that receives harsh, direct sunlight. Too much sun can scorch the leaves, turning them pale or brown. So while spider plants enjoy lots of light, it's best to keep them shielded from blazing midday rays. Also, check the soil more frequently during hot weeks. It tends to dry out faster, especially in terracotta pots. Water thoroughly when the top inch of soil feels dry, but avoid letting the plant sit in water. If your climate is humid, you might even mist the leaves occasionally to keep them hydrated and happy. When autumn rolls in with its cozy golden light and cooler temperatures, your spider plant naturally begins to slow down. Growth tapers off and spiderets may stop forming altogether. This is perfectly normal. During this transitional season, reduce fertilizing gradually, once every 6 weeks, or stop entirely, as the plant doesn't need as much nutrition. Watering frequency should also decrease as the soil remains moist longer in cooler conditions. It's a good idea to clean the leaves with a soft, damp cloth to remove any dust buildup and ensure they can still absorb light efficiently. If your plant spent the summer outdoors, now is the time to bring it back inside before nighttime temperatures dip below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or 10 degrees Celsius. Winter brings rest, and your spider plant enters a gentle dormancy. Growth may pause, leaves may lose a bit of color, and watering needs drop significantly. This is not a time for fertilizing or repotting. Instead, focus on maintaining a stable, cozy indoor environment. Keep your plant away from cold drafts, radiators, and heating vents, which can dry out the leaves and cause brown tips. Also ensure it still gets adequate light. Since winter days are shorter and darker, consider moving it closer to a window, but avoid placing it directly against freezing glass. Water only when the top 2 inches of soil feel dry, and always check that the pot has proper drainage. Although seasonal changes might seem subtle indoors, your spider plant definitely notices, and so should you. By tuning into its natural rhythms and gently adjusting your care, you help it thrive through all 4 seasons. Not only will it reward you with fresh growth, baby plantlets, and vibrant foliage, but it will also become a dependable, joyful presence in your home all year long.